Rogue Legacy 2 has finally left early access, and with it, the game that kind of coined the term roguelite is back, and with it comes all the good and bad of the original. If you're not familiar with Rogue Legacy 1 or 2, as I said, the Stinger, this is the game that kind of coined the term roguelite, and that is a game that is built on procedurally generated levels and runs, but with a heavy focus on persistence, so that your character or your options become more powerful run by run, and should hopefully eventually get you to the win. So the game, as I said, left early access, and what we have here is a game that is bigger, better, and just a lot more beautiful in terms of its aesthetic than the original. Our story is a bit more interesting this time, dealing with yet another failed kingdom, people corrupted by a mysterious force, and you and your descendants are going to have to solve it one run at a time. Before each run, you'll pick your heir from different classes, and they can also come with randomly chosen traits. Some could be as simple as you can't view your health bar. Some are far nastier, such as reversing camera orientation, making it harder to see, having all enemies lose all color or images, and so on and so forth. So the big aspect of Rogue Legacy 2 is the number of persistent systems working with you in order to get you through the game. Gold, which is your primary resource, will be used majorly for unlocking or adding aspects to your estate. Each part of the estate you build up will give you some persistent benefit. Could be improving your stats, unlocking new classes, some quality of life features, etc. You can find ore in the dungeons or in the castle itself, which you can then use with blueprints to craft new gear. Gear has a weight limit, and the more you wear, it will lower your resolve. And resolve is a resource that's used to equip new relics, which act as kind of the run-affecting modifiers that we usually see in games like The Binding of Isaac, Revita, Dead Cells, so on. And you'll also get blood that is applied to runes, which once again have to be found in the runs themselves, which provide you with passive benefits, including the all-important lifesteal. And then there's an even new system. By finding scars or clues in the dungeons, you'll unlock bonus challenges that will reward you with pearls, and these pearls will yet further unlock more stuff, including class modifiers, major quality of life features, and more. Now, the game is not set up that you're going to unlock everything in a single complete playthrough, and there are extensive New Game Plus options that can add persistent difficulties, boss modifiers, and there is a ton of game here if you want to play it that far. But the general process or kind of state of the game is that you have a total of 6 biomes. They are in order of difficulty, which affects the enemies, environmental hazards, and of course the general look of it. You have 6 bosses to kill to get to the end. Killing a boss will have it be locked out for the remainder of that playthrough. And once you've killed all 6 bosses, it's time for the grand finale. Now, like with the first game, it may not look it, or at least I'll try and include some footage of it, but this game is very platforming intensive. There are a lot of tricky jumps, bouncing, slashes, and wall jumps, and kick flips, and so on that you'll have to do. Besides persistence in terms of your character, the other form of persistence is in the form of heirlooms, which act as the Metroidvania aspect of this game. And yes, you will be unlocking double jumping at some point in time. So, the general play of this one, again, if you play the first game, you will be very well acquainted to this one. And that is both for good and for ill. As I said at the start, Rogue Legacy 2 has pretty much all the positives of the first game. The extensive, persistent elements, it has very interesting class diversity, as well as, again, beautiful aesthetics. Some of the later areas and boss designs look phenomenal, but it does come kind of at the drawback that a lot of the issues I had with the first game have found their way into this one, and I want to spend some time on that next. But first, if you're interested in my thoughts on game design, then be sure to check out my offering of design books. For entry-level students, we have 20 Essential Games to Study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with free-to-play coming in 2022. Rogue Legacy 2 is a sequel that pretty much is bigger and better in all respect compared to the first game. But with that said, it does not fix, I think, a lot of the nitpicks and just general gameplay complaints that I had with it. So first off, this game, as I said in the last part, is very platforming intensive. If you are not a fan of a lot of the more technical and heavy rapid movement of some of the more challenging 2D platformers, Rogue Legacy 2 is going to be very punishing for you. This game demands a lot of you. And even with the persistent elements getting more health, armor, damage, and so on, if you're not good at dodging or performing these actions, you are not going to get far or be able to beat this game. The general platforming feels very floaty to me. This is one of those games that if you hit or bounce off of something or jump, you tend to go very high up in the air. And in order to kind of kill that momentum, you have to immediately dash right after you do whatever that action is. And it feels a little awkward to me. As you play through, the game's shmup or bullet hell tendencies really make themselves known. You will be flooded with bullets and projectiles and swords and lightning and fire all over the place. And it can feel a bit unfair due to how the game doesn't have a standardized alert system or tells for bullets. This is a game where two different fireballs that look exactly alike can have completely different patterns or how they move. The game introduces some shots that are homing, but there's no differentiation between the bullets until they actually start tracking you, and in some cases that may be too late. I would also have liked more alerts from enemy attacks. Some enemies, whenever they cast a spell or do an attack, you get a proper alert. Some enemies will just attack you without any delay. And it can become annoying due to how limited healing and health is in this game. It's again why life leech or recovery when you kill an enemy is so vital, especially for the end/late game if you go into the New Game Plus. And all in all, I still felt that there really wasn't a lot of true variance in these runs. While yes, your air and the weapons and skills or traits they have really do change that kind of play, it's not affecting the general moment to moment. You're going to be fighting the same enemies, going to the same exact room types, dealing with the same exact obstacles. And it just got to the case of, okay, if there's a bad air, I take a dive, we get one that I like. And some of my favorites were the chef with the deadly spoons of overpoweredness, the gunslinger, and basically any class that could kind of focus on attacking at least medium range. This is a game that has a lot of contact damage, and you can turn that off in the accessibility mode, but playing this game normally can be very annoying sometimes. When you hit an enemy, they don't stop or recognize your hit, and they just run into you and do a quarter to half your health. And as I said, it just feels not as responsive or not as tight compared to some other action roguelikes and roguelites we've played. Again, such as games like Dead Cells, or recently with Revita, Cavity Busters, and the like. But with that said, these are complaints that were very much in the first game. And if you loved the first one, you are going to love Rogue Legacy 2. One final point that I want to make before we wrap up this review. The game has received several quality of life patches and updates past its launch, including upgrading or updating the alerts and tells from attacks. So there is the possibility that some of these complaints that I have with the game may not be as relevant or as detrimental to it compared to when we play or when you're watching this footage. But with all that said, while Rogue Legacy 2 is not going to be one of my, I think, all-time favorite action roguelites, it's still a fantastic example of this kind of subgenre. And again, if you enjoyed the first game, then nothing that I said should steer you away from playing this one. And with that said, we're going to wrap up our review of Rogue Legacy 2 here. I would like to thank the developer for giving me a press key to check it out. As always, if you'd like me to play your game in the future, please get in touch. Check out our Discord, Patreon, and all that. Do the liking, subscribing, and commenting the YouTube algorithm demands of you. And come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games. Until next time, take care.